So I get a lot of questions about this Remington up here on my shelf. And I think it's time that I come clean with everybody about how that happened. Now, for the people that ask in the comment section, you'll know that I just come right out and tell you that we destroyed it when we were testing smokeless powder in cap and ball revolvers. Now, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that are going to see that and go, well, duh, that's what happens when you use smokeless in a cap and ball revolver. And if you really want to get technical, yeah, if you pour a whole bunch of smokeless in there, that's definitely what could happen. But a few months ago, we did a video where we were testing smokeless powder in cap and ball revolvers. And we found that to use a really light charge of smokeless powder, we couldn't get it to ignite at all. At best, it would squib and shove the ball into the forcing cone. That was about the best we could get. The only way we could get it to fire reliably was if we used just a pinch of black powder. I mean, between 2 and 5 grains of black powder. I think the reason why the smokeless wouldn't light off is it just doesn't make enough pressure. So when you add a little bit of black powder, it'll help it light off, and it actually would work. But we were not satisfied with having to run a duplex. We wanted to be able to say that we could make it run on smokeless powder, which we did, and we filmed, and we never released the video on it because the risk for calamity is too high, in my opinion. And if you're looking for an example, it's right up there on that shelf. Now, this thing, gave its life for science, I want you to know. I had somebody tell me in a comment the other day that the difference between around and being scientific is when you're scientific, you write down what happens. So this is totally scientific right here. But as you can see, this thing is completely destroyed. It blew the cylinder up, bulged the top strap, and it's well, maybe somebody could fix it. I don't want to use the word ruined, but it's definitely in a bad way. And we did this completely and totally knowing that this is a possibility. Having your firearm end up like this is a possibility. So what we did, and again, this is for science, was we got a smokeless load that worked reliably. And if you must know, it was 5.5 grains of red dot with a conical projectile. Couldn't find one that worked with a round ball, at least we couldn't. So we had to use a conical. Again, I imagine it makes more pressure. So it was 5.5, I believe, grains of red dot and a Johnson & Dow conical. So it's a 217 grain conical projectile. And that would fire reliably. The velocity was really low, around 490, 500 feet per second, but it would go off. So again, being completely aware that this is a possibility, the end result, we continued to up our smokeless charge, trying to get the velocity around 650 was our target velocity. And what we found was the line between 650 feet per second reliably firing smokeless load in a cap and ball revolver and wow, this thing just exploded is really thin. Really thin, razor thin, perhaps. Now, what we were doing is we were only loading one chamber at a time, and we'd check it because we found when you load up 6 of them and then they don't work, then you got to take it apart, pull the nipples off, pour some black powder in there to get them to fire. It's kind of a chore. So we were only loading one chamber at a time until we got a reliable load, and then we'd load 6 and it would work, and it was even reasonably consistent. But trying to get the velocity up to around, again, 600, 650 is what we were shooting for. No pun intended. We ended up with 6.5 grains of red dot and a Johnson & Dow conical. And again, we only loaded one chamber. And I pulled the hammer back, pulled the trigger, and bang. And I thought, oh, okay. And I went to pull the hammer back again, and it was completely froze up. And I looked and I said, oh, that's what happened. Now, again, we filmed all of this stuff and we never released it because I didn't want to be accused of destroying a firearm for views. I get accused of enough wacky shit. Most of it is blatantly false and, at the very least, greatly exaggerated. But I didn't want to, it just didn't sit well with me. Because, again, we knew full well that the consequence of running a test like that ends up like this. So we just chalked it up for experience, and now we know, and I set it up there. And ever since then, about every video, I get more and more people asking, hey, what's up with that Remington up there? What's up with that? What happened to that? So that's the story on this thing. Now, I know it might seem like I run a little fast and loose with the rules, and I might, but even I know there are things that are pretty dangerous. But I'll admit, I didn't expect that to happen with 6.5 grains of red dot and a conical, not when we were at 590 feet per second, and it's feeling pretty wimpy. Now, you want to see it? You don't want to see it. It's really pretty underwhelming. It's not interesting. I mean, you do, huh? All right, well, prepare to be underwhelmed. So let's see what it does. Besides bark really... Oh! Destroyed it!
Whoa!
Nailed it! So, again, the line between functioning smokeless load and something like this and that happening is razor thin. The reason why I didn't release the whole video and, even make excuses then is this has the potential to be rather dangerous. Now, I have had comments from people saying, hey, I use smokeless, I use this and that and blah, 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 and it works great. All right, I'll take your word for it. I suppose I'm one of those people that just likes to experiment on things, even when the answer might be pretty clear. I still like to try and find out for myself. So when the entire interweb will leave you comments on your video about running smokeless powder in your cap and ball revolver that, oh, it's going to explode. Well, that's a definite possibility. No doubt about it. Not that I thought that they were wrong or anything. But again, I still was surprised. I wasn't expecting that particular load to shell it out. I hadn't thought we really started pushing it yet, but apparently I was wrong. Now, I often will tell people that you can't fit enough black powder in a black powder firearm, whether it's a musket or a rifle or a cap and ball revolver or whatever, to harm it. Black powder is not powerful enough. You can't fit enough in there to harm it. The way it burns, deflagrates, the way it goes, it just doesn't make enough energy. Now, there are guys out there that have tested that with black powder. Well, they'll put ounces of black powder in a barrel. They'll put 5 or 10 patched balls in the barrel, and then they'll light it off, and it'll bulge, or it'll split, or it'll break, or have a problem. And the way I look at it when it comes to that, black powder in particular, is you have to almost intentionally f up that bad. I don't know how you could be that loaded or inebriated to load your firearm that bad, that incorrectly, that poorly, you know what I mean, in order to have that happen. That is not the case when it comes to messing around with smokeless and muzzle loaders or cap and ball pistols. For example, if you were to grab this IMR 3031 instead of your Swiss or Schutzen or GoX or Pyrodex or whatever, and pour 30 grains in your measurer and pour it in there and slam a ball on there and put a cap on and fire it, I wouldn't doubt at all that it would look much like that, maybe even a hell of a lot worse. So this is the dangerous stuff when it comes to this. And again, I know I kind of run fast and loose with the rules, but even I know that this can be dangerous. Anytime you're dealing with smokeless powder and muzzle loaders, even cartridge conversions. I got a fair amount of experience with cartridge conversions. I like cartridge conversions for, Captain Ball revolvers. But still, all the standard smokeless reloading principles apply. You can't just dump a full case load of 3031 or Reloader 7 or Bullseye in there, slam a ball on it. That will make any cylinder or firearm come apart. Not just a cartridge conversion. That'll make your Smith & Wesson Model 10 come apart just the same. I'll show you some close-ups of this thing, some still shots. It is pretty impressive. That cylinder is completely shelled out. That one chamber there is gone, and you could hear that piece of metal in the video. You could hear it landed in the bushes someplace. Yeah, we did look around for it. We couldn't find it, but yeah, it bulged that strap bad. There's probably somebody that could fix it if they really wanted to. If this was the last Remington copy on Earth and somebody really wanted to, I suppose they could fix it, but it's not nearly that important to me. So it just sits up on my shelf now for people to see in videos and ask about. I guess that's pretty much it. So I suppose the moral of the story with all of this is running smokeless powder in applications it's not designed for, like muzzle loaders, has the potential to be very dangerous. But as the great Paul Harrell would say, who's gone now, which is just absolutely tragic, don't try this at home. I'm what you would call a professional. So as usual, folks, if you thought this video didn't suck, do me a favor and hit the like button. Consider subscribing. And if you did think it sucked, go make your own damn video. But don't let that happen.